Yo, what's up everyone? Today I'm going to be showing you on how to build a 30K MRR SaaS without being good at marketing. And this is only possible with the product-led strategy. And product-led basically means to use your own product as the main engine for growth. Meaning to say that we're not going to rely on anything related to sales, marketing, ads, and all that. No, we're all just going to rely on your product in itself as the main engine to scale. And the reason why I'm qualified to make this video and why you should, listen to me and why you should trust me is because, well, just to show you, I basically helped this SaaS to go from 19K MRR and within 2 months I basically helped them scale to 30K, 33K in MRR. And that's roughly like a 1.8x in MRR. Now, I'm not gonna lie and say that I'm 100% attributed to that. I'll be lying to you, to myself. But I'm just saying that, these are the strategies that I followed because this team, well, basically this founder of this product, like, applied my strategy and, like the conversion and retention really improve based on the strategy that I'm going to be showing you. And it's only been 2 months since they actually implemented my strategy. So hopefully there'll be a client interview on this product bouncy.ai on this YouTube channel soon, hopefully. And this is for those who are stuck at around 10 to 20K MRR and you're really serious about the growth of your SaaS, but the growth is not really that healthy, you're stuck, then this is basically how my whole strategy works. I will literally break down your whole entire product and then we would see where it's broken, we would see the revenue leak, and then we would just fix everything from there. So it is a full UI and UX breakdown. And if you want to work with me one-on-one, under the description of this video there's a link that you can click. You can book on a call with me and I will see if it makes sense for us to work together. So now back to my video here. I really just want to touch on by saying that I'm only going to be talking about the micro side of things, meaning to say that this video is not going to be about coding, about programming, about copywriting, about website designing and all that. Those are more of like the micro side of things. This video, or basically my whole entire YouTube channel, is focusing on the macro side of things. That being, conversion strategy, product experience architecture, which is a huge one. These are like A plus problems, right? Like user journey mapping, behavioral psychology, retention system engine, monetization strategy. And again, that goes to show that even with like different breakdowns, which is my YouTube channel is flooded with this sort of videos of me breaking down different products, breaking down the funnel, how they make their money and all that. So, if you want to see more proven concepts on the strategy that I work with, the frameworks, then take a look at my YouTube channel. This YouTube channel is literally flooded with all of that. That this is another video of me breaking down, really going in depth on that product, etc. All this mapping the onboarding flow, going through like very anal stuff. Pause. And so now this is basically the whole entire thesis of my whole entire framework strategy: diagnosis, activation, implementation, habit loop, and monetization. The whole thing is gonna go from like 3 months, so which means my whole strategy spans from week 1 all the way till week 12, which is around roughly 3 months. And that's just how my strategy goes. Now, in this whole entire video, I am just gonna show you how the framework of my deliverable works. And so if you really just want to apply this strategy on your own, then feel free. I'm just gonna like literally show you how I help my some of my SaaS clients like 1.5x, 1.8x their MRR. And one thing I just want to say is I'm just gonna drop everything here. This is literally just a documentation of my offer, literally. And I'm giving you on this video for free. And the reason why I'm giving you that is no strings attached. I'm genuinely saying this in a, well, sincere way. Good luck with trying to apply everything on your own. Genuinely good luck. Because it's really easier said than done. This is one of the reasons why people come to me to actually like, help them with the growth of their SaaS. Because the problem is that when you try to apply things on your own, you're too close to your product. So you literally see things only from a technical guy's perspective because you've built this. It's basically your product is basically like your baby. But when you have someone like me who's completely new to your product, I can see your product, your onboarding flow, your sign up, everything, your first aha moment from a new lens, like your user who's just try your product for the first time. So it is a completely new set of lens that a lot of founders actually lack, which is why I exist as a matter of fact. Now, let's just get straight into the video. We're starting off at week one. This is where diagnosis and activation design starts. Week one are basically going to be covering around these two. Now, this we usually around take like 3 to 5 days with a total span of around 25 to 30 working days, 1 week of full focus of focus work. And the focus here is to literally diagnose everything, see what's broken, and see what to fix. Basically how it works on my end when it comes to my service. Again, you can apply this on your own, just translate everything whatever I'm sharing to your own perspective, to your own product. Is in the founders input. When it comes to the founders input, the first thing we always talk about is the goals and the product metrics, like your conversion, your churn rate, your average LTV, your DAU, MAU, all those sort of things, your ARPU, basically like every product metric that we need to know, right? And then on the founder side, they will give me a product access to a sandbox account, either that or just a free account, in order for me to experience all of the product from a complete new user's perspective. And then from my input on my end, I would say that during week one, when it comes to the diagnosis phase, I would be doing most of the work, in a sense that I would be experiencing everything from a new user's perspective. I'm going to be mapping the whole entire user journey and to see any revenue leaks, identify bottlenecks, design activation flow architecture, design a product bumper placement strategy to create priority roadmaps. And this on my end would roughly take around 25 to 30 hours. 3 to 5 days, really. And the outcome of this is that you would know exactly which bottleneck is killing your conversion, and you'd have the exact strategy blueprint on how to fix it. Now, in case if you're wondering how that actually looks like, it's just like this, for example, right? I'll be breaking down the whole entire product, and then we will see where's the bottleneck in the sign up process, in the first initial UI, in the dashboard. You know, I'll be giving ideas on what to change, what to remove, or what to add in your whole entire UI. So it really boils down into three things: what can you add, what can you change, and what can you remove in your product. And so week two is implementation. This is quite straightforward. This is when the technical guys team would actually get your hands dirty and shit, my bad. This would roughly take, give or take, around 6 weeks. Now you might be wondering, that is a shit amount of time, right? That's more than a month. And the reason why there's such a huge time gap is because the focus here is to build and shape activation fixes. So basically on whatever I've spoke about in the diagnosis phase, in the Miro boards, you're gonna be implementing it. And of course, we're giving each other leeway on what to fix, if there's any bugs, any glitches, any coding problems, which is why 6 weeks is like the sweet spot. Now, founders' input is to, of course, execute the flow simplification based on my blueprint to build product bumpers in a way of, the welcome messages, progress bars, confettis, tooltips, checklists, etc., and to reduce friction points identified in my diagnosis. And this would take around 20 to 30 hours, give or take, depending on you, depending on the team, and of course, depending on how complex the problem is. And then on my end is I would be giving weekly implementation calls, 1 call per week, every single week, which is equivalent to 4 calls a month. And then I would also be having some pre-call review of the UI and UX to give some feedback before shipping it. And then of course there's some general message support. This is if there's, like if you want to pop any questions, like review any screenshot demos, approve implementation and all that. So yeah, the time duration here is just 1 call. 1 call will probably last around 60 to 90 minutes, give or take, again all depending on how complex the situation is and if it's actually necessary to have more assistance. And the outcome of week two is to have an activation flow that is optimized for conversion so that users reach the aha moment faster. Now, this is when we're actually starting to pick up. Once, once week 7 ends, this is when we go into the retention design. And I do want to say before I carry on, some of the weeks here are overlapped. So which means that these two weeks, they might overlap between each other, because in the meantime when you're doing a lot of your work, I can straight away move on into the retention design, which is the next part after activation implementation. This is when we build habit loops, and this would take around less than 1 week, around 3 to 5 days really. And the focus of the retention design is to, well, design habit loops that bring users back. In the founder's input is quite straightforward. This is when you would just, review the call, hop on a call with me to just approve my retention strategy, to see how things work in your product, to see if it makes sense, what doesn't make sense, to make sure that we're on the same page. And then on my part, this is when I'm gonna analyze the retention metrics. And then once I have the design metrics and everything, diagnosing the product, which again, it's quite intertwined with the diagnosis phase, but this one is really specifically for retention part, the retention end of the puzzle. And then right after that, this is when I will get my hands dirty and I'll design the habit loops in a form of trigger, action, and reward. The time duration here would take around 15 to 20 hours, and the outcome of week 7 retention design is you will have habit loops that are well designed. And then following up with that is the implementation phase for the retention design. You would notice a reoccurring theme. It would always start with diagnosis, start with, auditing, my part of auditing, and then implementation. So the framework here, my specific framework is, I mean, it is quite straightforward, you see. Straightforward, simple. I want it to be simple. It has to be simple because, a lot of these things that I'm going to be sharing, it's so easy to get overwhelmed, especially once we're actually in the thick of it, once you're actually in the marsh. So I really try to keep everything streamlined, everything simple. And that is why it's so effective. It's simple, but incredibly, incredibly fucking effective. Now, where was I? When it comes to the retention implementation, it will take around 3 weeks. Again, when it comes to the implementation, I would always give each other some leeway, some breathing air of a room, so that you can build, ship some of the bugs, some of the features, to actually make sure we execute things right. That is the focus here. And the founder's input is, well, to build the habit loops. And the habit loops trigger can come in a way of, emails, in-app messages, browser extension setups. Because, some products, if you were to have some browser extension like Calendly, for example, it's such a useful thing and such a game changer, because you're essentially getting users to use your product without even having to go inside the UI. So that in itself is like an incredible retention strategy. So in your product, if you have any sort of way that it makes sense for you to have a browser extension as part of a feature of your product, then fucking hell, that's a very, very strong retention game right there. And then my input is, well, you already know, it's weekly implementation calls. Again, one call per week. Pre-call review of your retention setup, and then message support. And then the outcome of the retention implementation phase is you would have retention loops that are live and retention systems that bring users back daily and weekly. Now moving on to a monetization strategy. This is where the money is being made. This is more about, optimizing the price to maximize your LTV and upgrades. Again, when it comes to on my end of doing the auditing and diagnosing, it will only take me like a couple days, 3 to 5 days, mostly a week at most. And so the founder's input is basically to, share share with me the data on what is your current free plan usage. What are your upgrade rates of each plan? What is the conversion between your monthly versus your annual plan? things like this. And then once I have this data, my input is to audit your free plan limits, to ask myself, are you too generous? And then to analyze the pricing page. Does it make sense? Does the price seem too intimidating? Does the price seem a little bit too cheap? Does your, like your tier list, is there too many? Are there any necessary pricing lists and all that? And then follow with to design your upgrade triggers. When should users upgrade? And then importantly, last but not least, is to map the lifetime value optimization. This is when we're going to be encouraging users to, to upgrade to the annual plan, of course, to have a higher lifetime value. And then we're also going to encourage them to upgrade to a higher tier list. This would take anywhere from 12 to 15 hours, again, right, around 3 to 5 working days. And the outcome of the monetization strategy is you would have a free plan limit that is optimized, a pricing page that is clear, and then users would naturally upgrade to a higher value plan. And then if you haven't figured it out by now, then this is when you actually get into the implementation phase for the monetization strategy. Duration here would take weeks, give or take. And the main focus here, this is when you build and shape your pricing changes. On your end, this is when you adjust the free plan limits in code. This is when you upgrade the pricing page, when it comes to copy, layout, or CTAs. And then this is this is when you're gonna be implementing the upgrade triggers. And my input is, again, same thing, weekly implementation coaching calls, one call per week. Each call spent from around 60 to 90 minutes, and then message support. And then the outcome of the monetization implementation is, this is when you would have a pricing optimization that is live. More users are gonna upgrade. The ideal outcome here is that more and more users are upgrading to, to paying customers. Lifetime value increases through annual and higher plans. Now, you would then notice that this whole entire strategy has all to do with conversion, retention, onboarding. And then once you have all of these things implemented, once you build a product that is product led, meaning that you have built a SaaS that uses the product as the main engine as growth, this is when you can go all in into the sales led growth strategy. Go all in into marketing, into ads, because this is when it's going to pay you tenfold. You can see that I'm getting my hands dirty along with you. But again, it's just I say at the start, as just now, if you want to apply everything, all of this on your own, then feel free to go ahead. But just understand the terms and conditions with yourself and with your team, with your other co-founders, that it will take a long as time. And it's really a game of trial and error. You're gonna find yourself face planting, then start all over again, and that's just part of the game. But however, I mean, I'm just saying, if you want to prevent that from happening, and if you're really serious about the growth of your SaaS, then I mean, this is basically just at the end of this video. If you find this video very very valuable, which I assume that you have since you have already watched at the end of this video, then check out the link below. And if you want to work with me one-on-one on how to apply this whole entire my literal strategy that I use for my SaaS clients to help them scale their MRR, like literally documented here live on this whole ass YouTube video right here, then let's talk. But to be fair, like, I don't really care if you do it or not. How about you hit me up when you actually try this own strategy and you actually see how hard it is?